invulnerability, trick nerfed, removal of rare mobs, and so much more. Hello there, right here we have a brand new snapshot for the Java edition. This is 24W45A. This will eventually turn into the full release of Minecraft being 1.21.4. Today they change how mobs will decide what armor or weapons to upgrade. So now if a mob does have the pickup loot tag, which can occur rarely in some hostile mobs like zombies and skeletons, if some new gear comes in contact, the way they decide if they should pick it up and switch it with their current gear that they're wearing is based on a couple different factors. So first off, if the new armor has higher base armor value, this is the little +6 that you see in here, or if the armor has higher toughness than the one they're wearing, or if the armor has more enchantments, like the one I gave this guy, he switched out an enchanted version for a unenchanted version, or if the new armor has less damage, which is durability, as they like things that are more repaired, or if the item has a custom name. So I went ahead and named this piece in an anvil, and we also have this piece that is unnamed. So if we would give the unnamed one to this villager zombie, but if we give it the same type of armor but just with a custom name, it will now switch out the one it's wearing with this one, as long as it also meets those other requirements. Notice if I would give it a unenchanted version of the leggings that are named, it's not going to switch those out. Now they also did a similar thing when it comes to how they decide what weapon to upgrade. So first off, if they have no weapon whatsoever, then they'll definitely take in a new type of weapon, even if it's something that's really weak like this wooden sword. You see it pick it up. So of course they'll also switch it out if the new weapon can do more attack damage, or if the new weapon is enchanted, so it will pick up the enchanted version, or if the new weapon has more durability. The one it's currently holding has a little bit broken, so if we give it this one, it will drop that one and pick up the new one. And lastly, if it is custom named and have stats similar to the previous one, it will choose the custom name one over the older one. They also gave preferences to certain mobs, so like all skeleton types will prefer holding a bow over a sword, when in the past they would drop their bow to easily pick up this sword. And if you give them a netherite sword, you can see that they will still not pick it up, which means there's a new type of rare mob to get in your game, and that is skeletons that you gave swords to, as before they would switch out their bow and hold any type of sword, but they will pick up better types of bows. So here's an enchanted bow, and it will switch out the enchanted one for the unenchanted one, following the similar rules as we talked about before when it comes to weapons. Now this preference for one type of weapon over another is also applied to drowns, piglins, as well as pillagers. So let's give this drown a sword, as you can get drowns that have nothing, and you'll see it will pick up the sword, but as soon as we give it a trident, it will pick up that trident. And then if we would give it a nice sword, like a netherite one, you can see it'll no longer switch it out for a sword. And because you normally can't get skeletons that have empty hands, this is why you can't actually get a sword skeleton. But you could get an empty hand skeleton if you use this trick that I showed in the past, where you can use overstacked items to make the game delete the item that's in their hand. Now when it comes to the pillager, even though it's holding nothing in its hand, it won't actually pick up any type of weapon unless that weapon is a crossbow. And even if we give this guy a crossbow, he won't actually pick it up. Now this is something I noticed with pillagers that have these empty hands. This can be done if you just have them constantly shoot at you. They eventually will break their crossbow by using up all its durability, but you can't actually give them anything else even if they have the pickup loot tag, which pillagers normally don't even have, unlike most zombie types as well as skeleton types. Now piglins are another thing that will pick up a crossbow as their main type of weapon, and they won't actually pick up other types of stronger weapons like netherite swords until they actually convert over into a zombified piglin. Let me know if you have any questions or things that you want me to test related to this change, and make sure you guys are subscribed so you can stay up to date on the latest types of rare items and mobs to collect in your world, as that is one of the main things I cover on my channel. Minecraft just fixed one of the oldest bugs in the game of Minecraft. This is Minecraft bug number 212, and for reference we're at number 300,000 when it comes to the new bugs. But besides being an old bug, this will actually change the game, at least for those guys that like to kind of be a bit cheaty. That's because you could actually stop the game and leave the game, and then when you log back into it, you wouldn't take any damage. Notice that I'm in survival, and when I hit this tree here, I didn't lose any hearts. This is because when the player logs back into a world, players given a couple seconds of immunity, meaning that they can't take any damage whatsoever. And this has saved my life a few times in survival. One time I was working on making a witch perimeter, and I accidentally fell into a hole with some TNT. But if you leave the server right as the TNT is about to explode, you can log in and actually have no damage done to you. You can imagine tons of scenarios where you're about to take a whole bunch of damage and you can just nullify all of it. And that's what this bug report fixes today. So now when you log back into the world, you'll take fall damage. You'll also instant die when coming back from some exploding TNT. This also affects when you fall into lava. Oftentimes you can kind of swim out just by relogging and using the little bit of immunity that you have every time. Or if you're on fire, you can try to avoid the fire tick just by constantly relogging. But it seems like all of that is now removed. So if you've used this before in like your hardcore world or on a server to prevent yourself from dying, definitely don't try this after the update. They did something kind of strange but pretty cool when it comes to dogs and their collars or cats and their collars, which you can change using dye. Now if you breed two different dogs with two different colors, like this red one with this yellow one here, when they have a puppy, it's going to have a mix of the two collars colors. So yellow plus red made an orange baby, which is really cool, so you can tell which baby came from which parents. By the way, if you have a dog and you're trying to breed it with someone else's dog, even though you can't get the dog to sit up, you can make them breed just by putting down some water. Kind of a different change, but what do you guys think of it? If we reach 500 likes on the video, guys, I'm gonna make another one of these videos the next time Minecraft has an update, for real. The next change has to do with the parity with the Bedrock Edition, and that is how long the effects will be of the different types of suspicious stew. So here you can see what the Java Edition timing was before. Now fire aspect got dropped down to 3 seconds, blindness got increased to 11, saturation and night vision were kept the same, jump boost dropped down to 5 seconds, poison went down to 11, regen went down to 7, weakness dropped down to 7, wither also dropped to 7, but this change isn't going to make a huge effect when it comes to the how do we get here advancement, which I did design a new machine in order to get it with the new types of effects in the game. Look forward to that video. They made some changes when it comes to the closed variation of the Eye Blossom, so now bees will not try to interact with them whatsoever. You're also not supposed to get poison from them anymore, but that seems to not quite be fixed, as we see that guy is poisoned. They also made it so that the bees won't get tempted when holding the closed version as well. This all kind of makes sense because when the flower is closed, in real life bees really don't like the flowers because they can't get to the nectar compared to the open versions of the flowers. Look at that, guys, Enderman carrying one of the new flowers. That's pretty cool. They also changed how the creaking will interact with knockback. So now it only does knockback if it's not in its actual frozen state. But like as soon as you're in survival and you're looking at it, it'd be completely frozen, and now it will completely ignore knockback from not only the player, but from other means like mobs. They also fixed a bug report that I made related to the creaking and dogs. And that was despite it being a player dog, even though it would attack the creaking on the player's behalf, it wasn't causing the creaking to generate any resin on the blocks over here. And the reason why this was a bug is because in Bedrock Edition this works, and it also works if the player attacks the creaking with like a bow and arrow or any other player means like potions. That was all working. But for some reason a dog was not working. But they actually fixed this today, so now we can use dogs in order to get resin, which means it's possible to now make a playerless creaking farm where you don't actually need the player to be sitting here with a auto clicker attacking the creaking mobs. Now if you guys haven't seen my simple farm here that produces a ton of resin per hour despite the entire design being really simple, you guys can check out that video linked here or in the description after watching this one. Now the downside to using dogs compared to using the player is the player can easily attack a whole bunch of creakings all at once, where a dog will only target one at a time. So you need to have one dog for every single creaking that you have here. And there's 64 creakings, so that means 64 dogs. But with this bug now being fixed, the farm design that I made for Bedrock Edition can now work in Java. So I will be making a dog version of the farm, so look forward to that in the future. And if the creaking gets damaged by player-lit TNT, it will also create resin when before it wouldn't actually do anything. They also added so that skulk sensors will now work when the creaking spawns in the resin. The resin spawning it is now detectable by the sensor, so you can use this in your farms, although it's just easier to use a clock like I did in my farm. They also fixed this really weird bug with the wind charges and the creaking. If you would shoot a wind charge at the creaking heart, not even breaking it, this would actually kill the creaking. This of course was not intended, so it's now removed. Now when it comes to the creakings, when you give them invisibility, you expect them to kind of be like the spider, where the eyes are left behind, so they look really scary. But if you give invisibility to the creaking, the eyes weren't being left behind. So now they changed that so you can get these really spooky looking creaking eyes just floating there. Now before, you could use resin clumps in order to produce a trim, but they changed it from using clumps to now using bricks. Though it seems like bricks are currently broken at the moment, so you can't place them in the slot. But I think this makes more sense because when it comes to trimming, you're normally using like the ingots rather than the raw ore. And when it comes to clump, it's kind of raw compared to the bricks, which are more refined versions of those. You might have noticed when the dragon dies, the hitbox kind of gets left behind. These little smaller ones where the main one moves upwards. Now this was not intended, and despite it being in the game for so long, they finally have fixed it so that it will actually all move together. Now they also fixed this problem with the XP orbs. You can see how they were bouncing upwards and then snapping back to the ground. This is a bug that was accidentally added into the game more recently during these last couple versions, but has now also been removed. Now once in a while they'll fix a bug, but it's not actually fixed, so they have to come in and fix it again. And this includes the problem that we've seen in the past where using a fire aspect sword onto one mob would accidentally set fire to any of your lays nearby. This is not intended, as the lays are supposed to be kind of protected from this, so your lays will now be safer. Now last week we've seen some minor changes to how sprinting can be interrupted by different actions, and this week we also seen some bug fixes related to sprinting as well. So now your sprinting will be interrupted if the player is given the blindness effect, or if you jump onto a mob, or if you are in elytra mode. Notice that your FOV stays wide like you're sprinting even though you're flying with your elytra. Now you will no longer see weird high FOV in certain situations. This next bug that was fixed is one that I definitely approve of, and that is when you pick block a beehive or bee nest. Even if you use control pick block in creative mode, when you place it down, it doesn't retain the honey level like the one that you copied it from. But typically, control pick block would always retain all the block's information. But that changes today, so now you will actually be able to keep this, which will make it much nicer when designing honey farms and testing out different redstone mechanics in order to make it work automatically. If you guys want to see this honey farm, which also works with a villager, or just a simple honey farm design, I have a video covering those. There was also 2 game crashes that were fixed in this version. The first one would occur when opening a new world that is using the void preset. It would crash the game. And the second one actually occurred here on our testing server. By the way, if you don't know, my testing server here is open to all the viewers 24/7. So you guys can always hop on and test out things. You can see all the crazy stuff people have been building. So I think this world's been up since 1.20 or so. There's always so much stuff here. But yeah, getting back to the crash, somebody accidentally crashed the server by using explosions near the creaking. Certain explosions would actually just immediately crash the game. So now with that one fixed, we go back to testing more things with the creaking. A bunch of other bugs got fixed related to visuals, incorrect wording, when certain items were modified they weren't working correctly, and making sure that the new resin blocks as well as the eye blossom have the same properties as the previous blocks are like them. Resource packs got a hefty update today as well, and more functionality got added to item models. Plus the data pack got updated to allow all these new changes. Now stop by my live stream, which is linked down below, as I will be testing out all these newest changes here on our testing server. You guys can always hop on here. The IP is on my Discord, and since I'm partnered with Discord, you can just search Ray's Works on Discord to find me. I'll see you all over there. Bye bye!